different. They're very different, you know.
Oh, I imagine, because gin has got flavour and the other one hasn't.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
You're getting it. Hello and welcome to the Rose and Rockstar from the Rockstar CMO effing marketing podcast and the Marketing Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ian Truscott. I'm not a rockstar, but I am a CMO. It's Saturday the 26th of April, and in a moment I'll join my chum, Chief Troublemaker at Seventh Bear, Robert Rose, in our virtual bar, the Rose and Rockstar, where he recommends one of his fabulous cocktails, and I pick his brains on a marketing topic that is top of mind for me. This week, one for the vodka drinkers and a topic for all you vibe thinkers, as I asked Robert about an idea he has to slow things down, and we disappear down an alleyway of agile. But first, we need to pay the bar tab. I'll be back in a moment.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Raise the rudder! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
At Capella University, you can learn at your own pace with our FlexPath learning format. Take 1 or 2 courses at a time and complete as many as you can in a 12-week billing session. With FlexPath, you can even finish the bachelor's degree you started in 22 months for $20,000. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu. Fastest 25% of students. Cost varies by pace, transfer credits, and other factors. Fees apply.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much, mate. How are you this week?
I am doing very well, thank you very much. I am preparing for a lovely weekend
Yes.
and for traveling, actually.
Yeah.
Going to be headed your way to the lovely, independent nation of Scotland. How about that? That'll make my Scottish friends happy. We're going to tour Scotland and go, and it's going to be just wonderful. But yes, otherwise a great week, fun week, busy week. Things are good, other than the obvious bullshit that's going on in my country. But if we just not talk about that, we talk about marketing and business and fun stuff and drinks and cocktails, we're going to be just fine.
I'm with you on that, my friend. I'm with you totally.
Yeah. So we have a lovely, it does not get simpler than this. I'm a huge martini fan.
Yep.
And have been for years and years and years. It's one of my favorite cocktails. And my wife, when we have martinis here at the house, she always had vodka martinis. And so I'm such a, I'm snob about that stuff. And I was always like, it's vodka martini's not really a martini. It's got to be gin or nothing, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I went and looked at the history. Oh. And of course, it's been called a martini for ever and ever since the 1950s. So I have no reason to be a snob about it. And so I started, because of her, because why mix, and try to, make her happy and all that. So I started drinking vodka martinis as well. And I have come to really love them. So that's what we're going to have tonight. Is we're going to have vodka martinis, which doesn't get any simpler than just simply all parts vodka, as big a martini as you would like. And basically, just a hint. I mean, this is really a taste thing more than anything else. A little bit of dry vermouth. Don't do the sweet vermouth. Don't make my mistake that I tried this with. Dry vermouth is the way to go here. And then, of course, an olive. And one of my favorite things when I was studying the history of this, one of my I ran across this line that I just loved from a bartender that was talking about the differences between martinis and Gibsons and stuff. And he said, so a martini with an olive is a martini with an onion is a Gibson, and a martini with nothing is just lonely. And so you have to have a lemon peel a bit, or an onion, or an olive, or an onion to garnish with, and there you go. So that's our vodka martinis.
I'm not sure about the switch to vodka as a big gin man myself, but I guess I'm willing to give it a go.
I mean, I love gin too. I mean, I love them. I love them both now. They're different. They're very different. You know.
Oh, I imagine because gin has got flavour and the other one hasn't.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
You get. I imagine though, in your house, it's a very good vodka. That's probably.
Well, here's the thing. It's the better the vodka, actually, the less it has taste. And I think because this, by the way, what I also learned was that the vodka martini is really where the dirty martini became popular. Really? So it was it was really about how much olive juice do you want to put into this thing to have it give it any taste at all. So. Yeah. So, in any event, good vodka, and there is such a thing, a premium good vodka, for sure, because bad vodka cannot be good. But I mean, gin is much more important in terms of the quality of gin that you use. So, So, but there you go.
Yeah. Yes, I think. Well, there we go. Every day's a school day, so I've got to learn about vodka martinis now. Although I may actually, you've got me really tempted to have a gin martini when we're finished. I might do that for pizza and movie night. And speaking of school days, I have a question for you, my friend. I have read an article by a learned marketing chap that I know, where he was talking about slowing down. You be the judge of this one, which is about slowing down marketing. And he wrote an article in the Content Marketing Institute's blog called Slow Motion Marketing is the Antidote to Vibe Marketing. Two terms there that I thought I'd want to explore, i.e. slow motion marketing, what the hell were you talking about? And this vibe marketing thing. So where should we start?
Yeah. So, the vibe marketing thing is starting to go. I mean, look, no one's really doing this vibe marketing thing yet, but I'm seeing it incessantly in my social media feed, especially LinkedIn these days, where the promise of agentic AI, and it usually is accompanied by some very, tech bro hyped up post around what the benefits are going to be. And so the name itself comes from something that is actually pretty cool, which is this idea of vibe coding. So vibe coding, of course, is where you as a person can sit in front of an AI agent and either type and or speak in plain English or whatever your language happens to be. And basically the AI will then code up in computer code what you're looking for. So there's this sort of idea of vibe coding where you basically talk to an AI and describe what it is you want, and then the code sort of is written and done by the AI agent. And I think that's a really interesting thing that may come to pass. And so of course, because when you think of coding, you think of marketing, and so what this vibe marketing is sort of the next generation of that, where the way it's described is that using agentic AI, a marketer will basically describe, hey, we need this campaign, it needs to do this, it needs to do that, and basically the AI agent will go out and create the content. It will actually buy the media. It will do A/B testing on the ads. It will come back and get the results, and then self-optimize, and then personalize the content based on the person, and then write the follow-up emails. And basically, it'll go out and do all of that execution on its own. And you need not apply. And so the benefit statement at the end of these things is usually like, one marketer can command what an entire agency was doing before.
Yeah.
Now, here's my problem with that is like, okay, well, why even one market? Like, why does it need to be even any marketers, right? I mean, if this is so awesome, why not just turn on the AI agent and have it look at what we're doing and basically pull from best practices from around the world and then go out and do it? I mean, why do you need anybody directing it? And so, because certainly if you're going to have one person directing it, that's a single point of failure, and that's a horrible thing. So if you're going to trust the marketing to do all this stuff, why would you trust anyone at all? Why need, So anyway, there's so many problems I have with that entire idea. But what I wanted, so in very tongue-in-cheek fashion, because it was meant very tongue-in-cheek. What I did was I said, well, I'm gonna invent my own alternative to vibe marketing, which is going to be called slow-mo ma, which is going to be slow-mo marketing. And I sort of did a hype post with sort of, apps that could be built. I think I did one called Gut Check, which is an app that basically doesn't let you write any content until you ask yourself if this is actually a brand aligned or, represents what we do. There's another one called Delayer, which basically makes all content sit for 24 hours so that it can actually be checked for, typos and whatnot. So anyway, that was all done very tongue in cheek, but the overriding point is that I do believe fundamentally that it's the opposite that's needed. We do not need to wrap ourselves around the axle of speed any longer, and actually slower, more thoughtful, more, as we've talked about on this show before, more friction-filled processes and team orientation around creativity. This is where technology can help. Automation and AI can help us free up resources to be more creative, to be more strategic, and do some of those automated tasks for us. But that doesn't eliminate the need for more people. What it does is that it gets the ability for those people to start thinking creatively and strategically. And so that's the overriding point, is that the team, investment in the team, experience and creativity and thoughtfulness and slower paced ideas, I think are the differentiators of the future, not this sort of constantly evolving into faster and faster and faster execution of just general garbage.
And do you think that, and I mean, this whole vibe, I mean, it's like we stole agile from development, and we keep trying to apply these bullshit terms to marketing. I'm really not feeling that vibe thing either.
Yeah,
but.
I mean, look, agile marketing is a perfect example of this, right? Where agile, and it's, again, stolen from computer development, right? And in code development as a methodology, and then applied to marketing. And the interesting thing is, boy, did I get pushback from the agile marketing people out there who said, agile is good, and, you must have hated my books and, all this kind of stuff about agile marketing. And the problem is that if you look at the way that agile marketing works in many businesses, if it's applied the right way, which doesn't look much, quite honestly, at all like the coding methodology. No, it looks very different. But it employs some of the same philosophical approaches: the idea of sprints, the idea of iteration, the idea of a lot of collaboration, which honestly is sort of just good marketing, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be called agile. Yeah. However, the way that most agile marketing is set up is sort of a direct sort of cut and paste of what most coding agile methodologies are, which are sprints and stand-ups and and Kanban boards. And basically that's what marketing ends up being. So you lose in the name of speed and quote unquote agility, you lose the idea of thoughtfulness and creativity and long-term projects, right? If in other words, it's very hard to do a project that is integrated across multiple areas, which is going to take 6 months to realize, because honestly, you can't break it down to sprints. There is no sprint for this particular thing. And so the other thing that it misses, and this is something that Vibe misses as well, which is when we start looking at marketing like this, we need to understand that marketing doesn't compile. Right? It's not a yes or no or success fail idea. Most of the amazing marketing innovations that I see out there, and that includes campaigns and content and all the sort of things that make you go, wow, that was differentiating, that was resonant, that moved the needle, is the result of something that was tried before that didn't fail but didn't really work. It almost worked, right? It basically was, it kind of worked. And so employing an agile or this vibe marketing thing there isn't going to work, right? Because you're not going to see, basically things are going to automate for success or fail. And it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And what you're not going to get is the insight to, that it kind of worked. It didn't really get the, and then you go, but that is what inspires you to that breakthrough discovery that, if we just did this and changed it this way, maybe that'll work. You roll that dice and boom, now you've got a huge hit. So we just need to slow down. We don't need to speed up.
Well, that was not, well, I mean, I was, I surprised myself by taking us down the agile rabbit hole, because honestly, that pisses me off so much, because I think marketing is an agile discipline. None of this was fucking necessary. Right. And also a lot of that stuff that you talked about is actually just performance agile. Like you have to do the stand-ups and the Kanbans. I mean, yeah, sure. I run on Kanbans. I'm happy to do that. But you don't have to employ all of these things. And we always, marketing always is try something, iterate. If it doesn't work, do something. A/B testing, we've done that shit forever before anybody came up with the idea of bullshit agile. Anyway, the other question I was gonna
well, you know what it supports? It's the idea of sort of hastily, looking at Kanban boards and all those kinds of things. As my colleague Kathy McKnight and I see this all the time, especially in content, which is what we call checkbox content or checkbox marketing, right? And it's exacerbated by the work from home or remote work environment where my little Kanban board has my tasks.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand how my tasks fit into the larger picture.
Yeah.
But I also don't care, because if I get my little tasks done out of the Kanban board, it moves on to the next status and then I've done my job. Yeah. So there's no reason for me as a marketer to want to understand the creative work that came before or the creative work that needs to come after, because I just get my little world done. And it removes sort of that internal, unofficial, that collaboration that happens when you're working on a messy creative project, right? And marketing and creativity and content at its core is a messy, mushy process. And if you remove all of that for this sort of checkbox of tasks, it's supporting that idea that there's a right or wrong answer. And right? In other words, there is a right or wrong answer, and we just need everybody to check their box to make sure that the assembly line is made more agile, and that everybody checks their boxes, and it'll be a right answer. It's like, but that's not. Everybody can still make the right answer and get their task and checkbox done in time, and you still come out with mediocre shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other point I was going to make out of what you were just talking about was, do you think that we need more speed? Or do you think it's just that because we now have this ability to crank the handle of AI, and there's this opportunity to do all this slop, that we think we need to do more and do it faster? Or do you think anybody fucking notices, either on the consumer side of our marketing and then the business side of, is anybody looking over marketing going, what we need is more content?
Well, I see both, right? In many regards, the speed is often associated with quantity, right?
Yeah.
If we can just get faster, we can produce more. And so, but even broader than that, if you take the quantity aspect out of it for just a moment, you look at, do we need more speed? There's so often that I see marketing leadership or business leadership trying to constantly increase the efficiency and speed of marketing, with no acknowledgement or even recognition of what the benefit of speed is. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a clear benefit from moving from 0 miles per hour to 45 miles per hour, right?
Yeah.
And there's really starts to become a stretch to me when you start talking about moving from 50 miles an hour to 51 miles an hour to 52 miles per hour to, to constantly be focused on getting faster and faster and faster with no acknowledgement of the equal benefits, right? There's an assumption there that faster is better. And it's not, of course, and intellectually you can sort of immediately go, well, of course that's right. That's right. But we don't recognize it as such. I'll give you an example of this that I've just heard recently. So there was a guy who came out with talking about integration of AI. And this is more on the customer service side. And what they were talking about was they had reduced, so they went from 20 CSRs, customer service reps, to 4 because of a downturn in their market. And so it wasn't anything to do with the integration of AI and replacing people, but it was basically because of the market downturn. They went from 20 CSRs to 4.
Wow.
Then they started to build back up and things started to turn for them again. So they started to add more stuff. And what they did was, instead of hiring new CSRs, they added AI in because they figured it would make them faster and better. And they wanted to test whether or not the CSRs could be replaced with AI chatbots. And what they discovered was that indeed they got to results faster. They definitely got issues, quote unquote, resolved faster. But then they saw a 20% decrease in the quality of the interactions with those CSRs. And so they acknowledged the 20% decrease, but what they focused on was the fact that it was okay, right? In other words, they were willing to accept a 20% decrease in the quality of interaction with the CSR for the speed of a, let's call it a mediocre or a satisfying but not great experience with the CSR. And I look at that and I go, I don't know that that's a win, right?
No.
In other words, are we willing to pay that tax in the long run? In the short term, it looks great on a financial spreadsheet, but in the long run, that 20% is basically you're accepting the fact that there's a 20% tax on your quality of experience with a customer because you're buying yourself a factor of speed. So it's to me, there's this real calculus that doesn't happen, which is that speed is seen as better. And even you can see the same thing happening in ad spend, right? Where now, because of automation and programmatic and the third-party cookie and all of that, where bots and fraud and basically inefficiencies in programmatic, where the IAB now comes out and says 70% viewability of your ad spend in digital is as good as it's going to get, right?
Yeah.
That's as good as you can expect in 2025. And so, and marketers, because of the speed, because of the efficiency, because of the work that is getting done there, are willing to accept a 30% tax on viewability of ads in lieu of the speed. And you go to yourself, is that a win? I don't know that it is ultimately. And so I think those questions have to be asked. And the only way you ask those is if you actually slow down and go, is what we're doing right here? Are we speeding up just to speed up?
Yeah, exactly. And of course, going back to the beginning of our conversation, the article was actually written by you that I just referred to. Where might people find other stuff written by your good self, sir?
Well, they'll find that, of course, at our little slowly moving website, which is seventhbear.com.
Splendid. And when people spin the dial on the interwebs, where are they going to find you?
They'll find me mostly on LinkedIn these days. I'm enjoying my time on LinkedIn, or if they want to hear some political snark or funny little jokes about our current administration, I'm on Blue Sky as well.
Splendid. All right, mate. And most important to me, will you be in the bar next week?
I will indeed, yeah.
I look forward to it, man. I'll see you there. Thank you, Robert. And it seems this vibe marketing thing is yet another thing we marketers stole from development that maybe we shouldn't have. And we should just slow things down a little bit. So that's a wrap on our visit to the Rose and Rockstar. Thank you for joining us and for listening. You can find links to Robert and me, plus links to all the things we discussed in the show notes at rockstarcmo.com, where you can also find links to our newsletter, blog, our work, and all the ways to contact us. Coming up this week on Rockstar CMO FM, Jeff is in the studio on Wednesday. We'll be wrapping up our series about the CMO's first 90 days. And in the meantime, just remember, as Dewey Finn said in the film The School of Rock, you can't just say it, man. You got to feel it in your blood and guts if you want to rock.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.